Yeah, so my name is Leo Abun. I'm going to be presenting today Veritas, which is, I'm not sure I will say the first, but at least, forensic, a framework to provide the meaning to collect data from the smart environment and hopefully process that data to support forensic analysis. Basically, what we're trying to do here is to give forensic analysis experts, which I don't know, by the way, more data to work on and the mean to process it. So the agenda for today is we're going to be going over some motivation and research questions that we have before starting the project, some threat analysis on what kind of things we can see in the smart environment. We're going to list our contributions, the technical approach that we use to put Veritas together, performance evaluation, and the conclusions. So why the smart environment? So it's no different than any other environment. So basically what we're talking about physical space with several different devices that use for automation, right? So they can see things, they can see how people react. I mean, they react based on people's activity, and they also react based on all the device activity. So we believe that this information, of this data, contains some valuable forensic information that we can actually use to support forensic investigation. However, things can happen, right? So we can have cases when devices can be compromised or tampered with, so we cannot trust that data all the time. So you can have, devices, can cause, devices to mismatch the responses based on the user's or device's activity. Also, it's possible, hopefully, to use all the devices to support or reject those previous events. So you can have devices that can say, okay, this device is saying the truth, or this device are lying before what was happening before in the environment. And we can have also the cases that some devices, like I mentioned before, react to some previous devices' activity. So all this correlation between device activity is what we hopefully trying to use here to support the forensic analysis in these environments. And of course, we are considering that bad things can happen, so we are going to use that information that we collect from the smart environment to support this analysis. Some open questions I have posed are, okay, we believe that we can use that information, even though we see some mismatching in the different events, so we can have tampered devices, we can have other things. We can use that information to correlate that data with the security policies that are set for the smart environment and hopefully support the forensic investigation. However, there are some open questions. How do we collect the data? How do we get the data from? We know, or we mostly know that those devices, they don't store too much data. So they don't have a hard drive you can just open or analyze, so they don't have a memory that you can dump, right? So we need to find a way to collect that data, and we have also to find a way to process the data, analyze the data. So that's what we're trying to do with Veritas here. Some threat analysis, we focus on two main things on the smart environment. First, we're looking for anomalous activities, things that may violate the security policy set or enforced for the security environment, but they don't constitute a threat, right? They don't constitute like an attack on the smart environment. Maybe some user mistakenly, changing the configuration of some devices, or some users mistakenly, accessing some maybe physical space when they're supposed to be doing it. And also, we are trying to see if we can find forensic behaviors inside the smart environment, which is users or attackers intentionally changing the state of the smart environment to probably hide activity from Veritas or to change the configuration of the devices to kind of hide other malicious activities. So we are not just trying to see what's going on, but we're trying to see if we can actually find intent on what people are trying to do inside the smart environment, which is, we believe, useful for the forensic analysis. Some contributions, we are offering, or we're trying to come up with an end-to-end framework to support forensic analysis inside the smart environment. We have two parts in this environment. In this framework, we are going to talk about that later. First, the Veritas Collector, which is the mean that we use to kind of collect information from the smart environment, and the Veritas Analyzer, which is how do we process the data, right? And finally, we found that we can actually use that information and the processing that we are proposing here to infer things that are happening inside the smart environment to support forensic analysis. And this is, do we have a light here? Yeah. So this is basically the Veritas Architecture, right? So it's a little bit, like out of a lot of moving parts here, but I want to highlight two things. First is the Veritas Collector, which is the tool that we are putting together, we propose to collect information from either devices or applications controlling those devices, or applications controlling how those devices are set up in the cloud, right? Of course, there are three main steps on this Veritas Collector, which is first, we need to, because like I said before, the devices don't store information inside that much. We need to come up with some way to analyze the source code of the applications controlling those devices to find what is relevant for us during a forensic investigation. What kind of data we can collect that is actually handled or processed by those applications. And then we need to kind of come up with some preservation solution to collect that information and store it somewhere safe. So once we have that, so once we have a smart app application that we can actually modify or instrument to collect or to permit the collection of that information, we just use that application, the instrument application, and we collect that information in real time. So while we use the application, we start collecting information. Because this is a forensic analysis, we are not doing any processing in real time. We're just storing the information, and then we process the information later if we need to, in case of any forensic analysis, which is what we do with the forensic analysis part of Veritas, right? We basically collect the we extract the information that's going to be valuable for us from the database, and we apply some processing, and then we make forensic decisions. Of course, the forensic decisions will depend on how do we match that information or correlate that information that we collect with the security policies in place inside the smart environment. So the Veritas Collector, because it's not desirable for most users to instrument or analyze applications, we are proposing a tool that we call the modifier that automatically processes IoT or smart app applications, analyze applications, flags what is relevant for the forensic analysis, and then log that information somehow. Insert logs inside. Insert logs like this inside the app, so that information, that data can be collected automatically in real time. So this tool is hopefully alive. The last time I checked, it's free to use. It's not production ready, of course. It's just a prototype, but we are targeting right now SmartThing applications. So, and you don't need any expertise on, software analysis or anything like that. The tool will do it for you. And we just take the source code application, we modify, we analyze, we modify the source code, and we give you back the source code that you need to run in the cloud to kind of control the devices. As per the analyzer, we are focusing on 5 main types of data. So first, timing information. So how the sensor information, or how the data that we collect from the smart environment change over time. Because some sensors can react instantly, automatically to changes. Some sensors need, data or need to react from changes from other devices. We're also collecting sensor information, the state of the different sensors inside the smart environment. We collect device information. We collect control information, location, and timestamp of that information. So we use all that data. Again, we collect the data in real time, and then we use that data to perform the forensic analysis later. So how do we test Veritas, right? So we implement, we obtain IRB approval, and we implement a realistic environment with 22 different devices and sensors in a real smart office setup. So we use real users, and we invite the users to perform the regular activities inside a smart office, but also we invite the user to perform some specific anomalous activities and forensic behaviors that we predefine. We're going to see those lists in the next slide, but what I want to say here is that even though we predefine some anomalous activities and forensic analysis, we try to come up with some specific activities that were general for any smart environment or a smart office, so we can reproduce this, same results in different environments. As you can see, we obtained in total 96. We performed this experimentation on this collection over a period of 7 days with, I believe it was 15 different users, and we collect over 96,000 different data instances that we use to evaluate the performance of Veritas. As you can see, the regular activities were way over the anomalous and forensic behavior, which may indicate that we have some data imbalances, but we try to fix that later anyway. These are the list of some different activities that we have. Before we're not going to go over this right now. This is in the paper, very well explained, in my opinion, hopefully. So this is the different defined activities and behaviors that we invite the users to perform when they were doing the activities. We didn't set a specific time or a specific location inside the smart environment to perform these activities. They choose to do so, and then we come up with the results. So data imbalance, right? So we try not to trick Veritas on, on the use of, imbalanced data. So that's why we try to apply mechanisms to kind of balance the data out, right? So first we reject a lot of, not a lot, but we reject some of the benign data that we collect, so we can have a 50-50 proportion between what is benign or what can be considered malicious or anomalous. And then we also, apply k-fold cross validation to for during training to make the processing of that data more fair for Veritas. And some results. So for the evaluation, we focus on three main things, right? First, how can we detect anomalous activities from users? Remember, the anomalous activities are those that are not considered malicious, but they definitely violate the security policies. So we can see that, over time, when the number of users increases, of course, the accuracy of Veritas decreases, but we can still, obtain over 95% accuracy on detecting those activities inside the smart environment. As per the forensic behavior, which I believe are these, we obtain similar results. One interesting point on this is we also try to detect when what happened with the performance of Veritas when some devices are tampered with. So we performed this analysis, and it was really interesting to see that even though we have over 14 tampered devices, tampered meaning we can probably shut down one device, or we change the configuration, or we probably change the location of the device, all these activities we consider tampering, we can see that even though that's happening, we can still, detect that activity, and Veritas can still obtain, high accuracy results. So, which is kind of weird, right? However, we evaluated our results, and we observed that this may be possible because of the redundancy of the different sensors that we use. Of course, we have different devices, but most of the devices have, similar sensors that you can use to kind of validate what the devices were doing inside the smart environment. So finally, actually, let me go back a little bit here, something I forgot. So you can see also that we, for some activities, we saw some false positive rates that are not really low, over, probably 13% or so, which we didn't like. So we tried to kind of see what's going on there, what happened in those cases, right? So we specifically target those activities and behaviors when we obtain high false positive rates, and we also said that all those activities and behaviors were related with mobility. So mobility patterns that users were doing, maybe changing location over, inside the smart environment or something like that, and we also said that when we trace the false positive rate against the data we collect over the 7 days, we say that it's definitely decreasing, but in some cases like this, the changes in mobility between the weekdays and the weekends kind of confuse the model a little bit. So we conclude that even though the results are not bad, we could probably obtain better results if we have more data, which is we thought it was okay because since it is a forensic analysis, we may have more data to analyze with anyway. Finally, some overhead analysis. So we focus on the overhead that the collector imposes to the latency of the communication latency in the devices. Of course, because we are collecting data and we are transmitting data to the server, we want to know if that is affecting somehow the latency at the response of the devices. In those cases, it was high at the beginning, but when we start using asynchronous calls and atomic state variables, we had those latency reduced considerably. As a conclusion, we believe that we can propose a framework that is capable of collecting information and data from the smart environment, and we also propose in a way to process that information to support forensic investigations. The results that we obtain are promising, so we have in total, in general, I would say 95% accuracy in inferring anomalous activities and forensic behavior from users, devices, and applications inside the smart environment with minimal overhead. So this is what I have for you guys today. Hopefully you like it, and I'm happy to take any questions right now. Thank you.